book. And you see the title is very nice. Science of Understanding Authenticity or Origins or Principles. So the principles of the intellect or the understanding science. So understanding itself, this writer considered it as a science, right? And then he puts the principles of such a science. And it is very interesting because, again, it is a mix between the Islamic intellect, the thinking itself in Islam, starting from the very old days, especially on the 4th century. And then it shows also a lot of Arabic rhetorics. You see, because I'm telling you, you cannot speak about Islam, thinking Islam without exposing to the Arabic language itself. Of course, because I'm engineer, I mean, I do a lot of, I mean, activities and intellect activities. I mean, I'm very interested in understanding Islam as well as the development of intellect in Islam. However, I cannot forget that I'm an engineer, you know. So actually, I have a big collection from different books in math as well as in engineering. However, this is one of the very nice books that speaks the civil engineering.
It's called Arrow's Reinforced Concrete Reference Book.
Yes, ma'am. It is one of the very nice books that explains the principles of reinforced concrete. How do you think about designing when you design a member or you design footings? Or, I mean, we are talking about designing buildings or projects. It tells you and starts with you from the very beginning. So again, it is a very nice book because it starts with the very normal level of any students, and then it goes advanced.
It's very interesting, Doctor, that you are interested in different areas when it comes to your reading, and the issue of reinforced concrete, for example, very principled. You tend to read books that have like formulas. Is that correct?
Right, ma'am. Right, ma'am. And actually, I have many books in math that are translated from Russian language. I don't have it right now, but I do have it in my library. And as you can see, also the writing itself, you see, it's like semi-handwriting. It is a handwriting, you see. So it is not printed like, you know, as we see. It has also a lot of nice pictures, yeah, and examples. See, so it is very nice. I mean, part of it is printed, and the other part is handwritten. You know, that's why this book I consider it as an authentic book.
Indeed, right.
This is one of the very nice books that I like. You know that in some Egyptian plays, they mention this name Al-Badakhshi. You know, and some of the elites in Egyptian society named their sons like Al-Badakhshi. You know, and this, as you can see, this is a very old book that is printed at the beginning of the 20th century. And you can see that is written on the old style, which means 2 books in 1 book. So you have 1 book on the upper margin and another book under this margin, you see. So this is the margin and another book under the margin. And this book, again, discusses the Islamic intellect, again, which means al-fiqh. Al-fiqh is a very important issue in Islam, and it constructs the principle in Islamic thinking. And this book shows a lot of opinions, and then they try to show you how people approve of them, some of them, and how they did not approve.
So it's either they approve or disapprove, so it's criticizing but not judging.
Right. That's very important about this book. And I like to collect books that has or that have some kind of objectivity and in analyzing and in handling the issue itself.
Doctor, do you think people still write books in this method of criticizing a book in another book, or showing 2 texts from 2 different books in one?
No, no. I mean,
why do you think this has happened?
I think these people have done a lot of efforts in understanding Islamic intellect, you know, and they had also some kind of hope that they tell the reader as much as they can and transfer the experience and knowledge as much as they can. So that's why they had 2 books. And as you can see, the title itself says, this is Sharh al-Badakhshi, you know, explanation of a scientist called Badakhshi, okay? And this is called Minhaj al-Uqul, the ideologies of minds. And this is written by the authentic writer is Al-Imam Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Badakhshi. And with it, Sharh al-Asnawi. This explanation of al-Asnawi for the Sharh of al-Badakhshi. And who wrote that? Another person called, and both of them is an explanation for a third book called Minhaj al-Usul fi Ilm al-Usul. I mean, these two books explains another book, a third book. And the whole thing is written by another fourth person called Al-Qadi, the judge Al-Baydawi, who died in 685 Islamic year. And this is the first part.
So there's several other parts.
Yes, I mean, at least I would say you have another two parts, but I cannot find them in the market because these books are rare and they cost me a lot to print them. You know, you cannot find them anywhere. So it takes from me a lot of efforts and time to find such books.
Indeed.
You know, yes, and you can see that it is reprinted actually at the beginning of this century, maybe in the year 1919 or something like that.
Wow.
As much as I can see from the print. And this is the very last book, and I mean, it is a very nice book, and it is a very authentic, and
clearly it's well read because it's very old and.
Yes, ma'am. You see, it is reconstructed. The book is reconstructed because you see
the cover and the binding of the book is quite old.
It is quite old. And actually, the title is webbed out. However, you see, it's very strange because it is written again in a very strange way inside. See, فاكهة الخلفاء. Maybe the camera can bring the.
How would you translate فاكهة الخلفاء?
فاكهة الخلفاء وفاكهة الظرفاء للعلامة الأديب والفهام الأريب. You see, fakir means the essence, the authenticity of intellect and thinking, you know, as well as the very rare sayings of these scientists, because this is another version of Kalila and Dimna, you know, and it is two books also in the same book. We will see now. This is an older version from the other book, Al-Badakhshi. However, the two books are written in a different way, which is very interesting. You will see now. You see, and this is written by Al-Adib wal-Faham al-Arib, means the very wise man, Sheikh Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Umar al-Hanafi. I mean, it's very old style.
Even the style of writing is very poetic.
It's very poetic. It is very poetic, and you can see also
again, two books in one.
Two books in one, and this is a strange thing actually, because many of the books that I had from the very old ages do not have any drawings. This book has a drawing. I noticed that, and I just say it's interesting and strange. You see, this is one book. And this is another book.
A text and another text.
Yes, and both of them explains something in common. And you can see that it is divided. You see, Bab Muqaddimat al-Kitab. I mean,
the introduction
of the book, of the second book. However, this is not a common style in the other books that we have. So it is a bit strange. And you can see also that it goes like it has numbers, you know, here and number down.
Numbers.
Yes, you see.
Very interesting.
Yes, I mean, in order to understand what's written in the book, the way the book is planned and constructed, it is difficult before understanding what's written in the book itself. So you have to understand the book, how the book was organized, and why it was organized this way. And also, when you see the book, you know, like Fakiha underneath. And when you finish the book, it's something very strange, which is still interesting. The writer speaks about the ruler of the era, and he directs a message to him, which is very strange, I would say, because we can conclude from the way the book is written, the whole book is a message to the ruler to be justice and to be fair with people, you know. And you have the conclusion of the book, two conclusions, and another message on the margin. You see, I mean, it's very interesting book, and also, I mean, something very also interesting. This is index with a stamp, which is very strange. I mean, a stamp of the writer.
Quite authentic.
Quite authentic. Yes, you see the pages. I hope that I can reconstruct it someday, but you know, I like to keep it this way because it shows how authentic it is.
So, doctor, when you read such a book, do you read page by page or do you read story by story? Because it's two different texts.
Right, you are.
So do you read the full page with the two texts, or do you follow one text then go back and follow the other?
This is a very interesting question, and I do both actually, because I mean, I'm very thirsty to understand why it's written this way, and I try to compare the two texts, and I try to see why it's written this way, and is there a link between this text and that text in this specific point or not. So sometimes I read the first text, as you kindly said, then I move to the other text, and then I read both texts together. Yes, to compare if there is anything.
And are there links between the two texts?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes there are links and the hidden message too when you read them and reread them again, because remember, these books are very old, and the context itself is different from nowadays context.
Indeed. Doctor, let me ask you, after all your vast readings, how does this influence your style of writing in your own books?
This is very interesting. Actually, now I'm writing two books.
In one or two different?
Actually, I thought about this style, but I told myself that no, it will be hard for the reader because it's strange, and you cannot revitalize an old style just you are alone. I mean, we have to first like culture people about the style, then try to use it. But I don't see it effective to write two books in one book. It's a bit disturbing for the reader. So, of course, these books influenced my way of thinking as well as organization, because I always look for the authenticity first. I always look for the principles. I don't jump into the subject directly. I have to first set out a plan for the writing, then try to define the basic principles first. You see, that's very important. And one of the things that I learned from these books is the objectivity and neutrality. Never ever try to oppose or try to, yes, I mean, we cannot force or enforce our opinions to the reader. You have to have the two opinions or the three opinions together. Then you might say you are in favor of this opinion because of these reasons. You know, and this
and leave the reader to decide.
That's very important, because the message of any book is to reach to fact. You know, not just to impose your opinion or try to enforce what you think is a fact.
And finally, we want to ask Dr. Waleed, what books are you writing right now?
Actually, I'm writing two important books, I would say, for myself. One of them called Industry of Failure, which discusses how people fail in order to know how they succeed. This is number one. Number two is a very important book called The Miracle of Thinking in Quran and the Holy Book of Islam, Quran Kareem. That's very important because we discuss how the Quran discusses the thinking, intellect in Islam, like how the Quran encourages people to think, not just to accept facts without thinking. On the contrary, the Quran told people and encouraged people in many contexts in it to think and to challenge the facts and try to reach the facts by their thinking and their efforts.
Absolutely. Dr. Waleed Naggar, our guest on this edition of World of Books. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we wish you all the best with all your readings and writing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
With this, we wrap up this edition of the World of Books. We do hope you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Till then, it's goodbye.